know, it's amazing how, after the fact, how close it came to what the original idea was in terms of the way that we would break it off and divide it up, and where the entries would be for the doorways and so forth. A friend of mine came in, you know, while I was negotiating. We literally took pieces of old wood and, toilet paper and kind of laid it out, so to speak, of, you know, where the breaks in the rooms would be. You know, the staircases were, you know, designed by myself and a good friend of mine who does this. You know, in terms of getting my hands dirty and so forth, I don't mind that, but the real kick in the pants for me is the design and pulling it all together. Been here to Carolina, started out in pre-med. Organic chemistry pretty much ended that career, and moved into business and specifically finance. There's no ceiling on what you can make, and there's no overhead. There's, you know, it's very simply, you know, whatever you can create. When I got there, I think it was more that they wanted you to do it their way, and what I was there to learn wasn't necessarily, you know, what it ended up working out to be. I took a little sabbatical, and I'd always wanted to work on big boats, so I packed the car up and went down to Fort Lauderdale and found a captain who thought I could learn my way around a boat, and I did that for about a year. When I came back, I needed a job. A friend of mine who built cabinets hired me, and I worked with him, and it just sort of snowballed from there. When I figured I could kind of do some of this stuff on my own, I started buying tools and bidding jobs myself, and went from there to getting my commercial GC license, and after doing it for other people for a while, you know, put away enough in the piggy bank to buy this piece of property and get started. I bought this building in 2003. It was a building that had a lot of, to me, a lot of charisma. It had really cool bones with the barrel roof. I'd driven by it several times. There was an old one of those signs that says for sale, and it had been probably on the building for so long that you could hardly read the numbers. You had to literally get out of the car and go make them out. And the company was using it just as storage, and it was for sale. And he and I negotiated for probably a good part of 8 months before we made something happen. I had a little bit of my own money left over from some construction jobs, so I jumped in and started with the first unit. I figured that I needed to kind of get it far enough along where I could go to the banks and give them sort of some impression of what was, you know, to come later. And so I essentially finished the first unit. And when that was finished, I made the phone calls and brought the bankers down, and they seemed to all be very interested. And when they took it back to their boards, you know, being an unknown developer on a project this size, they all pretty much came back to me and explained that as much as they would love to do something a little out of the box, that they just didn't feel comfortable. Ann Sinclair at the City Council was a big fan of this project. It was in her area, and she made some really grandiose introductions for me. Several bankers that she knew personally, she asked them to come down here and have a look and give me a hand. Finally got to Don Tomlin, who is a sizable developer here in Columbia. And he was kind of my angel, so to speak. When he showed up, you know, it finally things started happening. he made me a nice offer to fund a certain portion of it up to a point. Or he would help me put together a more lasting bank relationship. And I opted for the second one, and he basically held my hand through the process, and we got it done. Literally, sometimes it was the night before, and sometimes on a cocktail napkin, when some of the stuff was drafted design-wise. I had LTC, a local firm, put together the blueprint for the layout, and just enough to kind of get me through the zoning and the process down in the city to get the permit. But after that, it was literally a design as you go, which I tend to have really decided that that's the way I like to do things the best. I have an acre in the backyard that I'd like to develop. I have room for several more townhouse-style lofts. Seems to be a glut of those on the market right now. So for right now, I am working with homeowners doing renovation, restoration work, remodeling. Until things change, you know, and money loosens up, because I would really like to get back to doing this.